If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkill's tutorial guides from Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today we are back in the ATR 4272, or let's try that again, 4272-600, how about the 72-600, and we're going to be taking it from Dublin, Ireland over into Glasgow. So making a jump across the pond. I always fly in the United States, so I decided to do something a little different today. We are going to be using my Overkill's tutorial guide to demonstrate that you can use it for any flight that you guys want. That has been released on Patreon for the 72-600. If you guys are interested in picking that up, please consider joining us. It definitely helps me out a lot. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so sitting in the cockpit here, like I said, we are going from Dublin, Ireland over into Glasgow. We're looking at a cruise altitude today of 17,000 feet and just over about an hour's of flight time, which should be pretty good here. Now, first thing that I like to do is just set the externals of the aircraft all up the way that I want. That way they're ready to go by the time we switch on the electrical power. Let's get our doors open, come back to the flight plan, go to import the operational flight plan sim brief. There's our fuel. Now, here's the ticket. I have noticed some pretty steady consistency with this. If you set fuel, set payload, okay, that actually does load the aircraft, but it doesn't transfer the data to the FMC. Like, for example, using the payload button. Do not use this button. This is the button that I have seen, I would say 90% of the time when my EFB and many of the cockpit systems freeze. It's after I try to use this load aircraft, or only on flights when I do use this. I've done multiple flights now where as long as I don't hit this, I don't have any freezing. Now, I don't know if that's fact yet, guys. It's just in the most recent flights that I've done, especially the last few that I was doing in testing the tutorial guide, that has been the case. So a little tip there, if you're having trouble with the EFB freezing, don't use this. I'll show you guys what to do when it comes time to program the FMC. Okay, so now let's go ahead and bring up my gorgeous guide, if I do say so myself. I am very proud of this one. This one's come along very nicely. So let's see here. Let's go to window capture, and let's see here. What are we looking for? We're looking for that one. And let's just pop that up. There it is. Let me shrink that window down a little bit. That is the wrong window. There it is. And it is extended past my view. Give me just a second. I'm trying to show this to you guys, but it's just being a pain in the butt right now. Okay, so here it is. This is the Overkill's ATR 72 tutorial guide. And just so you guys can kind of see, if you haven't seen it before, what we're going through here has literally everything you need in it to complete the flight that this guide is based on. This guide is based on going to Orlando, from Orlando to Atlanta. But it has everything you need, walking through everything step by step, including the tips that I just gave you guys about the EFB and how to prevent freezing. But it walks you through everything from cold and dark at the departure in Orlando to cold and dark at our destination in Atlanta. So that's what we're going to be walking through today. As you guys hear me reference a checklist, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, now for that ultimate realism experience, for those who like it, there are all of the safety checks and pre-flight checks, fire system tests, light system tests, ground proximity warning tests. All of that is included in the guide. I'm going to be skipping a lot of that today just to get us airborne in so we can enjoy the flight. But all of that information, if that is something that you enjoy and you like to walk through everything step by step, it is all included in the guide. And those actually came from a Real World Pilot's Operational Handbook for the ATR. So they are authentic. Now, obviously, some of those procedures can change based on, what's the word I'm looking for? Company. But all right, so battery comes on. Let's turn any of our desired external lights on. Logo, wing light. Now, we are fueled. Let's see here. Let's just keep walking down here. Let's turn on external power. Turn on our hydraulic pumps. Auxiliary pump. Green side, oxygen, window heaters. Probe heaters stay off for now. Let's go ahead and pressurize the green system. We'll wait for our systems to come online. While we're doing that, we'll go ahead and do a couple of checks here. Parking brake is set, gust lock is set, throttles are at idle, flaps are retracted, condition levels are at fuel shutoff, landing gear handles down, 3 lights indicating. So we are good to go there, and just in time, everything came to life. Groovy. All right, let's go ahead and get to our hydraulics page, assuming that I can remember where it is. I actually don't like using these click spots, but it's faster than messing with the camera. Okay, so we're going to turn our hydraulic auxiliary pump on. That pump runs for 30 seconds, then you'll get a master caution. You can see all sides have, or both sides on the blue have pressurized. Let's pressurize the green side. We're going to turn the cross feed on. You now see full pressurization in the hydraulic system. Turn the auxiliary pump, and actually while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and turn the propeller brake on so we're ready for hotel mode when it comes time. Hotel mode is basically this aircraft's version of an APU. It doesn't have an actual APU, so what it does is you start one of the engines without starting the propeller. So no propeller rotation, but the engine runs. That master caution indicates that the hydraulic auxiliary pump has shut off. Just clear the master caution anytime that happens. We'll be doing that once or twice more here. Let's go back to our navigation display on the MFD. Alright, so at this point here, we would do our overhead panels test. But let's come up. Instead, we're going to turn our no device lights on, turn our seatbelt signs on because the aircraft is fueled, set our emergency exit lights to arm, and we do want to have the annunciator light set to bright in this case because we are using daytime operation. We'll test the fuel pump system real quick because we need to turn it on. So we're going to turn the left pump on, make sure the left low feed pressure light turns off. Turn the cross feed on, make sure the right low feed pressure light turns off, or feed low pressure light turns off. Turn the right pump on, make sure it shows run as well. Turn cross feed off, make sure both pressure lights stay off. Cool. All right, moving on down. Like I said, at this point we would be going through the fire test. We'd be working our way through the flow, but for today, we'll just skip that. Now we're at hotel mode, turning on the propeller brake. You do need the auxiliary hydraulic pump running for that. So if we had not done it this way, and the guide does reflect this, you would need to depress this again and then go up top and activate the propeller brake. We don't need to worry about that because we already got it done during that first segment. Seatbelt signs are on. No device lights are on. Window heaters are on. Oxygen's on. Hydraulics on. And let's see here. We would test the avionics system, the vent system. That's all modeled, which is really cool. Again, step by step is in the guide. The automatic takeoff power control system, we would do a test. What that essentially does is verifies that the system is working in the event of an engine failure, making sure that it feathers it properly and that the other engine compensates. We could set our lights now. We would do a full test of the trim system, basically running our trim controls until the flight deflection surfaces flight control surfaces go to their full deflection. Verify the idle gate. We've already checked the flaps. We've already checked the gust lock. Let's go ahead and set our transponder code now. Like I said, there's a lot of information in that guide. So set our transponder code. We're going to go to surveillance. Click in the box, just easily. Pick something here. Whatever you want in there. And we'll just leave it on auto for now. Let's go to navigation. Make sure TCAS is set to above because we'll be climbing. And weather terrain is, or weather or terrain, excuse me, is set to weather. Unless you have flying low altitude with terrain cautions, then obviously you might want to switch it to the terrain radar. Okay, let's see here. We can do a quick test of the weather radar if you guys are interested. So we'll take this knob all the way over to test. There it is. As long as you guys get the beautiful rainbow, it indicates the weather radar is working. You can rotate that back to the standby position, which is one click forward. All right, shaker test. We will skip that today. However, power management, we want to make sure it's in the takeoff position, which it is right there. Oop, right there. There we go. Fuel used. So you're going to find your fuel used here, there, and there. Obviously, we haven't used 810 pounds of fuel, and this is very normal. What you need to do is reset it. You come down here, click the performance page, and right there on the touchscreen, reset fuel used. And then I'll set that back to 0. That part's complete. Verify our flaps are retracted. You can see that right here. Set our pressurization to auto, basically. So we're going to put that about the 9 o'clock position. Now, unfortunately, I have seen videos where the manual mode works for setting your landing elevation. Landing elevation is supposed to be automatic. The moment that you enter in your destination into the FMC, it should automatically populate with the landing elevation. Unfortunately, that's not modeled yet, but I haven't seen any negative impact because of it. So, and obviously the aircraft wouldn't be released if it still didn't work. All right, we would go through our various pages and make sure everything's good. We would make sure compass, check the ground proximity warning system. That's all good. We will check the flight guidance computer or control panel. So basically your autopilot panel. Make sure it's coupled to the pilot flying, so it is left side. Make sure that the guidance source is set to FMS 1, which is this one here. As you guys can see, they do operate independently, which is also another nice feature in this aircraft, and you can swap them to the other side. Simply, like, you could put your missed approach over here, or if you had an alternate flight plan, you could put that over here, and then you could just simply swap it over, and the aircraft would switch navigation sources. That's all good. We would check the oxygen system, run through the different panels, make sure they're all set. This would be a good time to set all your frequencies if you were using ATC, navigation sources if you needed them. We will set our barometric pressure. I'm just going to cheat and hit the B key. There we go. There's our pressure. Once again, verify that fuel used has been reset. We already did that. And now we're ready for FMS programming. Now, before we get into that, let's go ahead and step down here. And this is the onboard checklist system. It's actually pretty handy. We're just going to skip through these first few pages here until we get to this one here. This is the start of what we're going to be interested in when it comes time. All right, so parking brake is set. Altimeters have been set. Landing elevation, again, if it was modeled, would be set. And now we're on the FMS. So let's go ahead and get down there and plug in our flight plan. So we're going to go to FMS. Make sure our configuration nav data both stayed okay. Go to initialization. We're going to start with our weight, and this is where we will enter our information that I was talking about earlier. So let's move back to the EFB for a second. Go to flight plan, and what we're interested, we want the ramp fuel, and we want our zero fuel weight. So we're going to do start with zero fuel weight, 40642. Oops, down there. 40642. I'm just going to double check myself, make sure that was correct. It is. I don't know why I keep doing that. Fuel on board. Let's go ahead and go grab that again. And that is ramp fuel 4028. And drop that in, and everything else populates. And a good thing to check, verify that once you've entered this information, it displays here. Because until you enter it here or confirm it here, it will not show up here. Okay? All right. So let's continue onward. This part's obviously very simple. Go to return. Let's go to performance initialization. And now we need to set our alternate information and alternate cruise altitude, as well as our actual cruise altitude. So let's do flight level 170 is what we are at today. This is actually one of the edits I need to make in the guide. I forgot to put flight level in front of it. So 17,000 feet. And let's see here. For our alternate, scroll down a little bit. Flight level 210 would be the alternate. So airport is EGCC. Echo Golf Charlie Charlie. And it would be flight level 210. There you go. There it goes. All right, I'm missing a digit there. Okay, cool. And now let's go over to the flight plan and let the games begin. So today we are ATR, 408. And we are going from Echo India Delta Whiskey, right? Never fly over the pond. I did not mean to do that. Echo Delta India Whiskey / going to Echo Golf. What was it? Papa Foxtrot? Papa Foxtrot. There we go. Execute. Good times. All right, let's begin. So we are set to depart on runway 10 left. Did I type that in right? Nope, I did not. That's a bummer. This is actually EIDW. Latin database. Undo. New flight plan. Let's try that again. Echo. India. Delta. Whiskey. Slash. Slash. Echo. Golf. Papa. Foxtrot, right? E, G, P, F, E, I, D, W. Okay, you actually got it right this time. There we go. That makes more sense. Okay. Try that again. Hey, look, we have our runway here. All right, so we're looking for 10 left. Interesting. So SimBrief thinks that this should be a 10 left, and in fact we have 10 right. So, I mean, we'll take 10 right. That's fine. As long as it has our star, or SID, excuse me. And that is the... Does not. Interesting. All right, give me a second, guys. I need to redo our flight plan to reflect the correct runway departure. It says 3410 right, 2816, but no 10 left. I wonder what happens if I type 10 left. Let's see if it'll go to me. I don't think it will. I haven't ran into this before with this aircraft. Nope. That sucks. Okay, yeah, let me jump into SimBrief real quick and change the flight plan. And we're back. Okay, so I do need to make sure that we didn't lose anything. All right, so I think our fuel changed a little bit, 4067 to 4020. We'll be fine. I'm not going to worry about editing that out. I mean, not over 47 pounds. We should be fine. Because we still have the reserves, and I don't intend on us having to circle. Cruise altitude's the same, so we should be fine there. All right, so 10 right. Let's go to our route. Figure out what we need there. All right, so this one I did see. So that is the Rotev. I hope I say these right. Remember, I'm from across the pond. Rote, it's still showing. Well, you know what? It's just titled different. Rote 8 Echo. That is it right here. Okay. Transition. It says Rotev should be the transition, but this one doesn't even have that. So let's hope that it's part of the flight plan. This is interesting. It's not like in the nav data here. So I'm going to hit execute. And, okay, cool. It is a part of it. All right, good. Good. All right, and from there, we are going to, on the Rotev, let's go to the airway, P600, and we are exiting at Blaka. I hope I said that right. There it is. Execute, return. That's kind of the cool part about these aircraft. They don't fly particularly far, so it actually makes setting them up pretty easy. Okay, let's scroll on down. Echo Golf Papa, and we are coming in on the, what are we expecting? 05. Localizer or ILS. Let's do ILS. And a Block 1 Golf. So it just takes the last digit off is what it's doing. It's interesting. Do we have a transition? It does not look like it. So we're going to use none. Interesting. So we'll hit execute. And now let's cycle through, look for any discontinuities. Alright, so let's clear that one. There's our missed approach in blue text. Execute. Let's check our altitudes. Make sure that none of them are above our cruise altitude. Looks like everything's good there. Cool. Oops. Flight plan is complete. All right, so moving on to the guide. See where we are. So we got our star in there. We got our flight plan. We got our cruise altitude. We got our flight plan discontinuities taken care of. We got our altitudes checked. All right, let's go back to our checklist. So we're going to pop up here. So FMS comm nav data set. Fuel quantity on board is verified. Engine fuel used has been reset. Memo panel we've checked. Power management switch is set to takeoff. Clear that. CDLS, or cockpit door locking system, is actually a little switch on the wall behind the first officer's seat. I'm not going to worry about showing you guys. It's not modeled. So FMS data and takeoff data needs to be confirmed. So there it is right here. Takeoff data. Now, we need to set our trim first. You can either hold the buttons down, whatever buttons you have your trim wheel mapped to, or this part does seem to work just fine. Go to payload, set takeoff trim. You do that, puts it where it needs to be, and then we will come back down here and hit confirm takeoff data, Notice the magenta line that appears once you do that. Alright, so takeoff data has confirmed. Trims, all 3 axes are set and verified. Tail prop, we need to store it on board. And this is actually before propeller rotation, so we still need to engage hotel mode. So let's actually do that first so I can show you guys that part. And then we can get rid of external power. Just make sure that we're set here. There we go. Yep, let the games begin. Okay, so we're coming upstairs. To enable hotel mode, make sure that you have your propeller brake set. Let's go ahead and still start the beacon light. I know it's not technically required because you don't have any kind of rotation, but why not, right? So what we're going to do here is we are going to take the engine start selector and move it to either A, B, or A and B. I just go to the bottom. It's easier. Give it a spin of the mouse wheel and you're good to go. Hit the start to button. Make sure that your fuel run light is on, obviously, but we did that earlier. At 10% here of engine rotation, we're going to take our engine tube cutoff lever and move it to the feather position. Perfect. We're going to come up stairs here, take our engine start switch, move it back to the abort and stop location. Make sure that the start to light extinguishes and turn off external power, and you'll see the DC Gen 2 light turn on. Okay. So we can now step on down. Oops, wrong button. And turn off the ground power. Let's go ahead and stow the tail prop. And actually, I should have closed the service door before we started that hotel mode, but oops. All right, let's see where we are. We've already verified our trim. We've already verified our takeoff data. We know our transition altitude. Ooh, actually, I'll bet you our transition altitude is wrong. I believe it is 6,000 out here. Ooh, I hope I'm right. You need to set that. Everything else should be good to go. Don't worry about that blanking out the next time you see it. It's totally fine. Don't sweat it. It happens. Okay, so now we're ready to complete the propeller rotation checklist. All right, so tail prop is stored, doors are closed, seat belts are on, beacon light is on, procedures complete. Let the games begin. So we are once again going to hit our hydraulic auxiliary pump. We're going to go upstairs. We're going to open up the propeller brake guard, turn it off, close it, and by magic, the propeller begins to rotate. I should probably close the right side or left side doors. But while the propeller's coming to life, we'll close those doors up. And let's go back to our engine display page. And once NH reaches 12%, or NP, excuse me, that's propeller rotation, we'll move up to auto. Auto, just one. Thank you. Just one. There we go. And she will come to life. Groovy stuff, right? And once the engine is stabilized, we'll start engine 1. Actually, before we do that, let's go upstairs. We want to turn the probe heaters on now. We're also going to turn on the TRU, or Transformer Rectify Unit. Now, there's a bug going on. I am on Sim Update 13 Beta. Notice that I depressed the button, but nothing came on. This started with 13 Beta. Okay, what's going to happen is let me actually just try adding a little bit of power, see if it comes on. There it goes. As I increase the propeller power, just ever so slightly, the generators come on, your lights go off, TRU light comes on like it should. That's a bug, okay? It's the RPMs are being set too low. I could try readjusting my throttle, but literally, so now we have the master caution. You can see our RPMs are at 4.3%, okay? Or takeoff power, I should say. Now, if I very slightly adjust that, And we're just going to adjust it until these caution lights go off. There you go, 4.7. We come back upstairs, everything's fine. So don't sweat it. It's just a matter of the RPMs getting too low. Again, I could probably fix this by recalibrating my throttle in the EFB under options, throttle setup, reconfigure these numbers for just a little bit higher, and we'd be okay. Okay? But I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so next, let's also set flaps at 15. Let me actually move some things around here. Alright, there we go. My throttle was on my right side. Set flaps 15. There we go. Do an anti-skid test. Just by depressing that. Make sure that the wheel skid flashes, caution light sounds. Let go of the button. And everything should clear. There we go. Alright, we're now ready to start engine 1. So, once again, we're going to come upstairs. Make sure the run light is on. Engine start switch to A or B. A or B or A and B. And start switch. Monitor our NH%, engine rotation, 10%. Feather. %, the start light should automatically turn off. And let's move into auto. And monitor a good start on both engines. Engine stabilized. Engine start selector. Back to off start abort. You can hear that other prop coming up. And again, we'll increase ever so slightly. All right. And we're golden. So we're going to set our initial climb altitude. I'm just sort of winging it. Just sort of picking something today. Let's set it for 8,000. You can either set your runway heading now, or as long as when you line up, you remember to set it. Let's go ahead and open up Navigraph charts. Set it now. And our runway heading for 10 right. Even the chart has 10 left. I really wonder why 10 left didn't work earlier. But runway heading is 09 or 7 degrees. So let's set that. Beautiful. All right, and we're going to activate our heading mode. Keep an eye on the autopilot annunciator. Heading select. Nav mode, LNAV is armed. Indicated airspeed. VNAV. VNAV is armed. Make sure again, couple is set to pilot flying. Set our speed by hitting the speed select, going from blue, which is manual, to magenta, which is from the FMS. And now we're ready for the before taxi checklist. Select. Recall, no warning lights. Communication hatch is closed. Condition levers 1 and 2 are in auto. Anti-icing as required. TRU is on. Anti-skid test was performed. Flaps are set to 15. Nose wheel steering is on. Procedure complete. And we are now ready to taxi to our runway. So let's go upstairs. Turn on that taxi light. Last thing we need to do is a takeoff config test before we're rolling. We're just going to push this button right here. And up here on the engine display page, you can see takeoff config test. Okay, let go. We're good to go. Go down to normal procedures. Taxi checklist. Taxi lights. We need to test the brakes. which we'll do in just a second. Flight guidance computer has been set up and config test was performed. Coming up here, let's go back to our PFD, our nav display. Let's release the parking brakes. And it is asking for it again. Taxi takeoff lights is set. Let's add some power. Did I go all the way forward with the parking brake? I did. Why do I have no parking brake? Oh! I'm an idiot. Helps when you don't skip pages. Probably be good to release the wheel chocks. I can see where those would cause a problem. I pulled the throttles back too far. Alright, so aircraft's rolling. Test the brakes. Brakes are good. So, brakes are checked. We're ready for taxi. Should have been pushed back, but oh well. This isn't exactly a taxiway, but we're borrowing it. These Irish guys are like, really? This is why we don't let you Americans come here. I'm just kidding. And anyone who's from Ireland watching is like, no, we're not kidding. This is why we don't let you guys come here. Fly it like you stole it. Quote a friend of mine. Transponder on. You guys like this taxiing? It's like I'm in NASCAR right now. The ATR is a super cool plane to fly, though. I really enjoyed it. Took a long time to get the guide together. There was a lot of information that was sort of hard to track down, especially with a lot of the cockpit differences. I actually found a couple of real-world pilots' operational handbooks, but they had a different cockpit. The whole flight deck was different. They were all analog gauges and things like that, so learning the systems was a little tricky. Took a bit longer. And then, of course, there were a couple of development issues that I did run into. There's been a couple of bugs here and there. For the most part, it flies very, very nicely, and I really don't have any issues with it. And it's something different. My RPM's too low. I think that's what I like the most about it, is it's something different. Cockpit's completely different than anything else we've flown. And that was a major appeal. You know, it wasn't an Airbus. It wasn't a 737. No, that was not an Airbus jab. It was just in general. It wasn't a Boeing. Wasn't a G3000. Wasn't a G5000. It was just, it's completely different. It was a beast all on its own. And I think that's what made it so much fun to fly this one. It was a completely new learning curve. The only thing that was semi-familiar, and actually really easy, is the FMS. The FMS was pretty familiar. I mean, I think for the most part, I mean, all of the FMSs, it doesn't really matter what aircraft it is, they all require the same basic data. So really it's just a matter of learning how to navigate them and learning their tips and tricks and how to program certain fields and how to edit other things. You know, some of that was a little weird to get used to, but I've definitely really enjoyed it. It's a fun airplane. We're also going to be live streaming again later this afternoon, you guys. We're going to be doing some Neo Fly and going and picking up a Comanche. So if you guys are interested, make sure you guys keep an eye out for the announcement there that we've gone live. We'll be going live on Twitch today. That'll be fun. Had a good time with everybody last night. It was a lot of fun. We're using NeoFly 4, which I'm still getting used to. Definitely still getting used to. But I do think it's better than 3. I do think the advantages in the software and the features that he's added. Like, you can just fly around practicing your pattern work and you get experience points for it now, where before you didn't. You can also create multiple hops, multiple destinations, create a very large flight plan where at the end of it you make a ton of money. You know, but let's say you land at 5 or 6 different airfields on the route. So, a lot of options. Really cool. If you get diverted to another airfield, you can pick up jobs there since you're diverted, especially if they work well with your next hop. Alright, approaching the before takeoff checklist. It's really annoying. So I think we'll come up to the hold short line, then we'll just hit the parking brakes. So I have to deal with the engine RPMs. Come on, power up. Stop it here. Let's reset that parking brake. Alright, let's walk through our before takeoff checklist. Alright, so we've already got our transponder set. We've made sure that that's ready to roll. TCAS we verified is set. Weather radar, we can set that to weather now. You can see the weather radar is active. However, it doesn't actually turn on until the weight is off the wheels. You want to make sure you set your tilt to 5 degrees nose up, if you will. Otherwise, you'll be staring at the ground the entire time. Let's walk upstairs here, and let's turn our landing lights on. Make sure those are ready to go. Beacon lights on. Let's turn that strobe light on. Get it ready to go. And I'm just going through a couple of other things, making sure it's all set. Okay, we're good. We're ready. Alright, so let's release the parking brake. And let's actually walk through, since she's sitting still, believe it or not. Oh! Missed a step. Gust lock off. And actually, I'm gonna... Oh, good. Parking brake's actually still set, so that works out. That's why she's set still. Takeoff briefing, gust lock, flight controls, transponder set, boost function is off, airflow, we checked is norm, that's upstairs. Cabin crew's been advised, engine bleeds are on as required, external lights are set, lateral and flight directors, rudder is centered, and we're good to go. Let's get out of here. So let's turn off the emergency brake. There she goes, we're getting to roll. want to set to notch, not full like I just did. Airspeed's alive. Approaching V1. Should start to sort of pop up on her own, just like she just did. Positive rate, gear up. There's our flap speed right there. Flaps coming up. Staying on flight directors. He's trying to. We're at 1,000 feet. Now we'll move on over to the climb position. So kind of like the Airbus throttles, has flex, max power, climb. This has it too, that's just down here under the power management switch. So you have your climb selection. We'll go ahead and activate the autopilot. Damper first, autopilot on. LNAV is armed and green. Alright, let's clear this. Landing gears up, flaps are retracted, power management set to climb. Engine bleed is on. Taxi to takeoff lights off. Let's go ahead and go upstairs. Taxi takeoff lights off. And altimeters, let's double check. Altimeters are good. Takeoff checklist complete. Go ahead and increase our altitude all the way up to our cruise today. You can see we have a 9,000 foot restriction, so that's awesome. Getting a little stuttering today. I don't know what that's about. I'm going to go ahead and set us all the way up because I'm not using ATC, so I get to do that. And it will still honor the restriction on climb out. And then once we pass wow, I cannot talk. Past the restriction, it will continue to climb. Gosh. All right, let's go ahead and double check our guide here. So we've activated that. LNAV is locked. Yaw damper's on. Autopilot's on. Taxi takeoff lights are off. Power management is set to climb. Speed 170 knots, indicating flaps have been retracted. Autopilot has been engaged. Takeoff checklist was completed. And it looks like we're good to go. All right. Beautiful. So here, I actually do have to reset my altimeter pressure. Okay, at 10,000 feet, we'll shut off the landing lights, and that's about it until we get to cruise. So I'll see you guys when we get there. Alright, so we're back up at cruise. First thing we need to do, set our power management to the cruise position. We can now go to the progress page. Take note of your time to top of descent, 34 minutes, 100 nautical miles. Top of descent should also be reflected up here on your PFD, or nav display, I should say. Now, we're going to talk about the top of descent here in a minute. Here's the deal. Take note of where it is as you get closer and closer to top of descent. Okay, you need to take note of where it is, because what are we going to do for top of descent, right? You're going to set your altitude down. As you set your altitude down, let's see if it'll do it for me right now. Notice it is moving. Okay? And as we get closer, you guys will see evidence of that. So as you scroll your altitude target down to the top of descent that you want to be at, or to the descent that you want to be at, so let's say we set it down to 5,000, the top of descent is going to move back. Basically, I think it's trying to indicate bottom of descent based on when you set your altitude down, so it's got to be above. That can't be accurate. I've notated that in my guide. So make sure that before you start changing your altitude target, that you take note of where the top of descent is. As long as you do that and you start the descent at that right point, you'll be fine. Now the catch is that you must initiate the descent on your own. VNAV is still one of those things that is still a work in progress, which is why my guide at the moment will walk us through how to descend using vertical speed. We want to descend at 1,500 feet per minute at 240 knots is the standard descent rate, descent profile for the ATR 72. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, everything else works great. And you'll find as we go through the descent, it's really not that hard to manage. We need to set up some weather information as we get a bit closer, but we're still a ways away yet. So again, still got 30 minutes on the books, guys. So as we get closer to the top of descent, we'll prepare for our programming. Okay, so now center that heading bug again, just because we're going to swap out of nav mode for a minute. We're out of FMS mode. We want the aircraft to stay on track. So we're going to set that. We're going to switch to ILS-1, and then we're going to set our final approach course, which is 048 degrees. Okay, and then simply swap it back and go back into nav. So we got that all set. That's why we center the heading bug so the aircraft stays on our current track. Let's go ahead and set our minimums. Let's see here, decision height 1350. Decision height or DA edge minimums ILS. Wow, 226 feet. That's easy. So we're going to switch to minimum decision height. This is for Cat 1 recovery. Recovery. Navy pilots will understand that. Or DCS players. And we want to be above it, so we're going to go 230 feet. Now it's flashing because both pilot and first officer selector has to be on the same setting. So we're going to come over here, switch it over to MDA, stop flashing. Alright, now remembering, zoom in a little bit, oops. We want to descend right about our top of descent point. So I'm not going to change the altitude until we get a bit closer, probably within about 10 miles, so I can get a good fix on where the top of descent is. Now it's not going to hurt anything with some of the burning, but it does look like we're going to be descending all the way down to 2,400 feet for the initial fix. Runway elevation is 26 feet. Everything else is set and ready to go. So now we're just going to sit tight and wait. So I'll see you guys as we get ready for the descent. Alright, so now we're getting close enough to the top of descent where we can start dialing this in. So we're about 15 miles from our top of descent. Let's see what our distance here is. Progress. Yeah, wow, nailed that one, didn't we? 50 miles from the top of descent. So really it's just a matter of sort of calculating that in your head, and now we can start setting our altitude. But this is the part I want to show you guys. So we're going to be descending all the way down to 2,400 feet. As I roll this thing back, let's keep an eye on where the top of descent ends up. It's pretty ridiculous. Level 2-4 is what we should see. And that will change once we descend below it. So we're ways away yet. Remember, right about here. I'm not going to change my distance or anything like that. We're just going to leave it as is. And then once we actually start descending, we'll set it. What I'm going to do here, now here's the trick as we start our descent. We're going to set our target speed. So we're going to go to manual. And we're going to set it 240 knots. Okay? The trick is, as we descend, the aircraft's going to speed up. As the aircraft speeds up, if you approach that red line that you can see right there, the descent will stop. Because we're going to be using vertical speed. It won't stop, but it will dramatically reduce to avoid overspeed. The aircraft will pitch and do whatever it needs to do to avoid overspeeding, which means as you get lower and lower and the aircraft gets faster and faster, we need to make sure that we reduce our throttle power. If you do not manage your throttle power, you're going to mess up your descent. You mess up your descent, you're going to overshoot the runway. Okay, and obviously you try to panic at the end to try to get the nose down. So let's go ahead, and as we're getting closer, we're just about ready to begin. So we're going to come over here to our checklists. Oops, back up. Damn it. It's not that way. I'm trying to remember how to do that. No, I didn't mean to go through those. Whatever. And normal procedures. And let's go to the descent checklist. Alright, we've already done the recall, landing elevation, again, it should be set, it's not. FMS, nav data, performance information is already set, decision height, minimum decision height is already set, arrival briefing is complete, ready for orders. If we used VNav and let it do it, it would automatically switch to that checklist. Alright, so we are close enough, the game's beginning. So we're going to go vertical speed, nose down, and we're looking for 1,500 feet. This is where we have to pay attention. That yellow arrow there will indicate where approximately your speed will end based on current power settings. So notice that as we get closer and closer to 240 knots, actually we're looking pretty good. But it's starting to go above 240. So we need to start pulling some power off. If you ever find that your throttle isn't working or responding to you, push them all the way forward and then bring them back. See? And now they're responding to me. I'm not going to lie, that yellow arrow can be a pain in the butt to manage. It really can. But down we go. At 6,000 feet, we'll be sure to reset our barometric pressure. But we're maintaining 237 knots on the descent, coming down through 15,000. So I'll catch you guys when we get closer. Alright, you guys. So we could just let the aircraft continue this path, but that's kind of an ugly path. And you can see it's got a very sharp turn here. So what I'm actually going to do, the aircraft comes out of this turn here. I'm going to center my heading bug, and we're going to switch to heading mode. Okay? So I'm going to keep the aircraft on its current heading. We're going to sort of come past our initial fix here, let it get down to 2,400 feet as desired still. But then we're going to manually turn us back onto the ILS approach course, and then we'll activate the approach. But I think I'll just make things a little bit cleaner. Like I said, it could make that turn, but I mean, look at that. That's pretty ugly. That's a nasty turn. That's a hard turn, especially when you figure that we should be configured for landing by that point. I mean, that's only a distance of, what, maybe 10, 15 miles? Actually, probably about 10 miles. So that's not a very good way to turn that. I don't like it, and I think we can do a little bit better. So again, I'm going to let us come back right about to this point, then we'll start configuring, we'll make the turn manually, and then set her up for approach mode. And I did forget to swap out of our altimeter. There it goes. 29902, no kidding. Who knew? Our target altitude over there is 2,400 feet, which we're almost there. So what I'm going to do now is set my speed selector right there, and we're going to go to flaps 1. Outer marker. There's the overspeed warning because of our descent. I hit the flaps 1 too soon. Calling myself out. That was an oops, but you guys can see that's exactly what it does. Locks the descent up until your speed reduces. That was totally my bad. I meant to slow down to 200 knots first, then flaps 1. That was totally my fault. Oops. This is where power management gets a little tricky here with this aircraft. There we go. It's not too bad, I think. And let's go ahead and start turning her. Man, Sim Update 13 Beta, I will say this, it has not been nice to the frames per second. I'm going to switch our navigation mode over to the ILS localizer. We're still on heading mode. We're getting ready for the swap here. Ugh. Hope the frame rate's smooth out. I'd love to know what that's about, man. So brutal. Alright, let's adjust our heading, make this turn a little bit smoother. We're sort of going to come at a weird intercept here. Kind of want to be perpendicular. There we go. Okie dokie! Coming down to the performance page. Activate on our approach mode. 140 miles an hour is the target. This is going to be a bit of a longer approach. So FMS, you guys can see 140 down there. We're going to keep it about 150 here for the moment. And as we do this, we are now set for the ILS. Let's turn our bearing on. Just give that a click. ILS is tracking at 10.4 miles away. So we're going to go into nav mode. Which means as the localizer comes into play here, it gets tracked. Basically, once this line drops down to towards the center of the aircraft should turn and fire the localizer. Quick check. We're going to go ahead and turn that nose wheel on now because it gets a little difficult to do when you drop in landing gear. This is a beautiful area. My goodness. You can see the glide slope tracking right there. There's the glide slope diamond. Slightly below it. There's a localizer being tracked. Coming in at about a 45-degree angle. Make that a little bit easier again for the turn. Localizer's armed. And there's a localizer locked. At that time, I will activate the approach mode. Glide slope is locked, so we got localizer green, glide slope green. Let's go landing gear down. Flaps to full. Oops. A little early on the flaps to full. I forgot to pull the power back. Did it again. I just like it when you guys hear the overspeed warning. You know, I feel like it brings something special to my videos. There's our runway. See it right there. We're on the glide slope, looking absolutely fantastic. Coming down to our approach speed, 102 knots, 112. That's 107, excuse me. Gosh, learn how to read, dude. This is where managing the throttle can get scary sometimes. Alright, while we're on this final here, let's just come on down here. Let's go down normal procedures real quick. Approach. Let's verify seatbelt signs are on, lights are on, altimeters are set, Kelvin altitude's checked. Okay. And let's, before landing, cabin cruise alert, landing gears down, flaps are set. Power management needs to return to takeoff. TLU low speed verified. Icing if necessary, external lights are set. We are clear to land. And there's the turn onto the localizer. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's re-verify our altimeter pressure. Still good. Really, really beautiful. Stunning. All right.
500.
Oh, there we go. All right, I'm going to take over control of the aircraft and see if I can do it without screwing it up. No promises. Off. I know I needed to send, but those trees are scaring the crap out of me. So we're going to maintain here for a minute. Funny enough, the PAPI lights say we're too low.
Minimum.
I know not all the PAPI lights can be trusted. Alright, we're through our minimums. You can tell that by the amber text on the altitude tape.
Don't sink.
That time I got a little low.
50. 40.
Too low, too low, too low.
30. 20. 10.
Not bad. Those trees were intimidating, not gonna lie. They intimidated me a little bit. I probably should have gone to the next one. Alright, set tight for a second. I'm going to go ahead and set the parking brake so we can get the aircraft cleaned up. Okay, so first, flaps get retracted. And we can actually do this by the checklist. Pretty much walks us through everything we need. Weather radar, let's get that back down to standby or off. Flight controls are locked. That's the gust lock. Flaps have set, trims are set, landing strobe lights. Anti-ice de-icing, probe heats. And TRU. And condition lever 1. Normally you wait 2 minutes. Nice thing about this being a simulator is we can do it early. But 2 minutes after landing, we're going to take condition lever 2. Take it down to feather. Oh, crap. Sorry, condition lever 1. Read that wrong. think I just lost both engines. I totally did. One's coming back, though. Or two's coming back, I should say. There we go. And then you would wait 30 seconds and shut it off. So, feather, then fuel shut off. And then let's add the power back in a little bit. Keep the generators running. And then yes, we actually do taxi with a single engine. Alright, parking our aircraft now. Okay, and let's shut it down. So we got our parking brake set. Deploy the tail prop. Put the chocks in place. Call for the ground power. Condition lever 2 down to feather. Transponder needs to go to standby. Go to cutoff. We don't really need the external power. We're not doing a turnaround. Work our way back through. Oxygen off. Turn external power on if you want. Turn our beacon lights off, nav lights off, logo lights, wing lights. Seatbelt signs can come off. Disarm. Helps when you hit the right button for the oxygen supply. My bad. And finally, battery off. And there she is. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this flight into Glasgow from Dublin. I definitely did. That was an absolutely beautiful scenery. And the flight went really, really well. I was really happy with that. That was a good flight. As always, guys, stay safe and healthy, and I will see you guys in the next one.